Next up, after a better-than-expected showing in New Hampshire, Nikki Haley is on to South Carolina and insisting that she's in the race for the long haul.
Bring it, Donald. Show me what you got.
Despite a wide gap in the polls and the news that the RNC briefly considered crowning Trump early, Haley and her campaign are laying out a strategy through Super Tuesday. At the end of the day, though, can she really give Trump a run for the nomination? Joining me is Massachusetts Representative Hannah Kane. She's the regional co-chair of Women for Nikki. Hannah, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this particular race. So right up front, can you just explain to me and viewers why you're backing Haley as opposed to Donald Trump?
Sure. I've watched Nikki Haley for a long time. When she was governor of South Carolina, I saw how she grew the economy. And when she went to the UN, as ambassador, she was very clear on what the United States stood for, and she wasn't afraid to stand up to bullies around the world. So my admiration grew for her, and I was hoping that she would run for president. And as soon as she jumped in, I wanted to help. And there are a number of us, not just here in Massachusetts, but around the country, that were really hoping that she would win, because we see her as the best chance not only to take back the White House, but to help Republicans up and down the ticket this coming November.
Is it overly dramatic to ask if this is a battle for the soul of the GOP and what the GOP represents?
I really think this is about the future of our country. Certainly it's about the GOP. But I also think that, the country is in a difficult spot, in my opinion. We have, unfortunately, I think, been too focused inwardly. And in that period of time, we are seeing growing threats around the world happening. So we need to elect somebody to the White House who certainly can lead on domestic issues, but also is experienced in foreign policy and can understand the threats in the world and make sure that the United States is prepared for them.
Were you happy with the results in New Hampshire? They were better than the polls indicated, but there had been talk of her, running a very, very close second, maybe even beating Trump, which she didn't. You're okay with the results, though?
Yeah, the polling had her at 38%. She came in at 43. She did 7 points better. And when you look at what Donald Trump did, he is essentially the de facto incumbent here, right?
Yep.
And he only got 54%. He should have been up in the 80s. And I think, because of the folks that were dropping out, basically from the first of the year through New Hampshire, we didn't give enough due respect to the fact that Nikki Haley started this race 11 months ago with $0 and 2% polling. 12 other candidates have dropped out, and it is now her and Donald Trump. So when you look at her getting 38%, in polling and then coming in at 43 on Election Day, she outperformed, and also she was the one who was getting votes from independents, which is going to be critical to win a national election. And people who decided in the last few days, the majority of them broke for Nikki Haley.
Let me ask you about the support she's been receiving from independents. I'm going to stop pointing at you with my pen. I've been told it's a bad habit, and I just put this down here. So she did get support from a whole bunch of independents. I believe it was 2-to-1, her independent support compared to Trump's. But conversely, he got 3 Republican votes for every 1 Republican vote that she got. Is it realistic to expect to become your party's nominee if the actual party members seem to be so inclined to vote for your rival?
Well, the reality is 35% of Republicans nationally say they'll never vote for Donald Trump. So when you look at winning a national election, you need certainly Republicans, but you also need independents. And those people, when we look at national polls, are already going with Nikki Haley. She, in one poll, was up on Biden by 17%. Donald Trump isn't anywhere close to that. So that we know in a general election, Nikki Haley can win.
I want to roll a little bit of Trump's election night speech and get you to respond to it. Let's take a look at some of what he said.
Sure.
The only person more angry than, let's say, me, but I don't get too angry, I get even. The only person...
What do you make of that?
More of the same from Donald Trump. What is the saying when you have nothing to offer, you just go negative? This is a man who consistently comes out and just attacks people. He doesn't offer a vision for this country. And the fact that he has spent so much of his election night, in which he, won the primary, going after Nikki Haley shows just how insecure he is. They are threatened by Nikki Haley. That is why you also think this week saw the RNC trying to shut down and essentially coronate Donald Trump. You know, we don't do coronations here in our country. We have elections. And when you look at, if you go back to 2016, coming out of New Hampshire, Nikki Haley has essentially the same vote count that Donald Trump does from delegates. So, 31 million people voted in the primaries in 2016. We are just getting started, and Nikki Haley's in it for the long haul.
The Haley campaign put out a memo, I think we mentioned this in the introduction to this segment, about her path forward. She noted that Michigan, South Carolina, and I think 11 of 16 Super Tuesday states have either open or semi-open primaries where anyone can vote in whichever primary they want, or if you're unenrolled, you can pick either the Republican or the Democratic primary, which is the way it worked in New Hampshire. Let me ask you, if that dynamic, independents being able to come and vote in the Republican primary, if it wasn't enough to put her over the top in New Hampshire, which people think of as having a more traditional Republican mindset, traditional Republican base, is it realistic to think she's actually going to be able to start winning some other states?
Yeah, I do. I mean, if you go back to New Hampshire again, in recent history, George W. Bush in 2000 lost New Hampshire. Bill Clinton in 1992 lost New Hampshire. You had Barack Obama in 2008 lose New Hampshire, and you had Joe Biden in 2020 lose New Hampshire. The race is just beginning. You've had 1.6% of the 31 million who voted in 2016 voting right now. As we move forward, more and more people are now getting to know Nikki Haley. Again, we, up until recently, had 12 people running who are now not out of the race. There is now a chance for people to understand the differences between Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, which is why hopefully the RNC gets focused on scheduling a debate, because that is where people will have a clear opportunity to hear their different visions for America. And I think that is where you will see more of the independent vote come to Nikki Haley. I
would love to watch a debate between her and former President Trump, but is it realistic to think the RNC is going to push there? Because, as you mentioned, they were going for bandying about the idea of an early coronation to get everyone to consolidate behind Trump. It seems like they're pretty much a subsidiary of the Trump wing of the party. So would a debate really happen?
Well, certainly anyone can put out there the opportunity to have a debate and invite hosts. I mean, Nikki Haley will take on any invitation that's offered to her. I think, again, Donald Trump doesn't want to debate Nikki Haley because he doesn't have a vision for the country. And, he is scared of Nikki Haley. At the end of the day, though, voters, if you're going to run for president, you need to provide opportunities for voters to get to know you. That doesn't mean just flying in and having a rally where you basically shout grievances. It means coming in and getting down to what the real true issues are facing our country. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And how would you go about doing that? The fact of the matter is Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. And under his leadership, we lost in 2018, 2020, 21, and 2022. If we as Republicans want to win, we're going to need Nikki Haley at the top of our ticket to do so.
We've got about 15 seconds left. Are you going to be heading to South Carolina to door knock for her?
I am, yes. Fortunately, I had a good friend just move there, so I'm looking forward to going down to South Carolina.
All right. Be interesting to hear what kind of response you run into down there. Hannah Kane, thank you for talking this through. Appreciate it.
Thank you.